आपादमौलिपर्यन्तां गुरूणाम् आकृतिं स्मरेत् तेन विघ्नाः प्रणश्यन्ति सिद्ध्यन्ति च मनोरथाः लक्ष्मीतनोतु नितरामितरानपेक्षमङ्घ्रिद्वयं निगमशाखिशिखा प्रवालं हैरम्बमम्बुरुहडम्बर चौर्यनिग्रं विघ्नाद्रिभेदशतधारधुरन्धरन् सर्वेषां स्वागतं to the Bhashya section. So in this session, we'll be looking at the Bhashya for shlokas 17, 18, and 19, all three by Dharma or Yama. So the reference Acharya has given is from different texts. So there is reference to many texts. He is paraphrased it, so we'll not get a direct reference. No, so some references has not been mentioned. However, I think there is one reference to Vishnu Dharmottara. We will talk about that in the later. But all three of them are Yama Ukti from Yamadeva. Why is it important? Because while we are talking about Yama, while we are talking about this life, Yama becomes very much relevant because liberation from a particular cycle of birth and death is possible only when our karmas have been completely given their phalas. Without that, what happens is we are going to be in that particular cycle of birth and death. So Yamaukti is important from his stand of point of view. He himself is saying that while there are people, everybody is going to do their share of papas, whatever it may be. That means unspeakables, they are going to do some, like unknowingly also they come across something, like because we cannot understand how the law of karma is. Like we have seen in Sri Rama Gita, the story of Raja Nraga. He had to accept his fate. And it was not something that he did on purpose. Like that, there are many people like Ahalya. She had absolutely no fault of hers, yet she was punished. So there is a seesaw of the karma and phala. Sometimes the phalas can exceed the karmas, and therefore it converts into punya. Like for no fault of hers, Kausalya had to bear putra shoka. For 14 years, she had to stay away from her son. For what fault of hers? Absolutely nothing. It was Dasharatha who made the promise to Kaikai and Rama to follow his or to follow his father's words. He went to the forest. Nobody had anything to do with this. Kausalya had nothing to do with any of them. Yet she had to stay away from her son. So in the next avatara, he makes sure that even though Kausalya Devi does not give birth to him, she takes Punarjanma as Yashoda, and she looks after Krishna for 14 years. And again, there is another continuation. After Krishna goes to Mathura, and then after Kamsa Dvamsa, he doesn't return to Vrindavan. He goes forward to Dwarka. So here there is a story where it is said that Yashoda had a lot of ichha to see her son getting married. Just so that ichha purti can happen, he again takes the avatara of not avatara. He comes down to he takes Punarjanma as Bakula Devi, and he comes back to Bhuloka as Srinivasa, just so she can witness her son's marriage. So sometimes Atireka happens where the karma phala gets exceeded, not proportionate to the karmas, and therefore accordingly it gets converted to punya or papa, sanchita karmas. So here Yama is saying all these unbalanced, why we go into this imbalance of karma and phala is simply because we don't know what is the pramana, the niyati of something we don't know. Sometimes I started a small something, okay, even by accident, something happened. it leads to a chain of events, and because of the chaotic repercussions, it comes back to me. Like in Mahabharata, it was not started by Krishna anywhere. The Kurukshetra war was not at all started by him, but he had the power to stop it. Of course, he did not interfere with Niyati. He said what has to happen has to happen. But in that context, yeah, all the Kauravas who deserved to die on the battlefield, they died. But for no fault of hers, Gandhari has to bear Putra Shoka because all 100 of her sons have been killed. So then she curses Krishna for no fault of his, but he accepts that because that is how the balance between karma and phala happens. Now, because sometimes phala is atireka, it goes beyond that pramana, and now karma has to balance it. So some punya has to be given to that person. So like this, there is an imbalance and it keeps seesawing. Because of this, we are stuck in this cycle. It is not just because we are not able to. It's not just because that we haven't received all the phalas that is relevant to our karmas. It is because there is that imbalance of what expected and actual, and therefore we have to go through that whole this, because if it's only a point of punya arjane, then we would not be seeing Prahlada Maharaja getting a punarjanma. Prahlada Maharaja is a very big bhakta of Srihari. And you know that Srihari protected him from Hiranyakashipu throughout his childhood. And when he becomes Daitya Raja, even then he is said to be at par with Indra, maybe even exceeding him in his dharmanishta, in his guna. And there is a reference where for Prahalada Maharaja, it is given that his birth may be that of a Daitya, but it is the his bhakti has made him into a deva. He is that kind of a king. Then what was it is popularly believed that Shri Raghavendra Tirtha is the Punarjanma of Prahalada Maharaja. So then how does that happen? It is not just Punyarjana. Punyarjana can be of different types. We talk about Karma Yoga. So Punyarjana is Nishkama Karma, earning a lot of merit. But that merit also is going to make us take birth again, because we have done good karmas. That karma phala has to be given to me. So it is not that easy. So what actually liberates us from this cycle, it is Harismarana or Haridiksha. That is the reason why we should get initiated to it. So Yama here is going to give us a simple uh, remedy, or he's not even, he in his words, he's actually criticizing. You couldn't even do archana of the person who is the reason for your creation. It's a simple thing. So he's saying, he's asking you, yamena paribhashitah, it is kintvaya na archito devaha. If you had done the archana of Keshavaha, he would have Kleshavaha Kleshanashanaha. He would have removed all your sins. That imbalance you would have completely removed. You couldn't even do that. Here, when we say Archana, it is not that namesake Archana. Oh, everybody, you get this, you get that, I get this, and there is a Pandit and he does that. No, it is not like that. When we speak about Hari Archana, it should be done with utmost sincerity or bhakti. We had seen the reference to bhaktya. So, in the previous in the shlokas, it says that it is bhaktya durvankurair pumvi. In bhakti, if we do it, then things change. The change of nature, because everything is by him only. It is bhakti that leads to the change of uh, or brings about sattva to it. So here, when bhakti is there, the amount of bhakti should be so much that it overpowers every other senses, which means the Arishad Vargas have already been given up. Because otherwise, when there is aham bhava over there, there cannot be surrender, which means there cannot be bhakti. When there is jealousy, then there cannot be bhakti. When there is any of the Arishad Vargas, there is not, it is not possible to get bhakti. What we are living is in a very mixed up format because we are not contemplating bhakti so much. But the level of bhakti that is required to transform us is so overpowering that it eats up all the negativities, including our ability to do something wrong, because we accept it. We accept whatever he is giving to us. Where is aham bhava over there? Where is jealousy over there? Where is all other different kinds of Rishad Vargas? So the importance of bhakti is simply that it is able to change the nature to that extent that what sins have brought us to Naraka, it leads to so much of paschatapa. It leads to, paschatapa is like that agni that, inside you that burns you. So the only lepa, the only gandha that can cure that is bhakti. So that level of bhakti is required. There is a story also on that. I think it is Vadiraja Acharya. He used to he used to worship Hayagriva. Hayagriva, Bhagavan Hayagriva is is said to be the form of Hari with the horse face. Okay. So and he what used to happen is he used to do puja to the murti of Hayagriva, and then for Naivedyam what he used to do is he used to prepare what do we say, some kheer kind of a thing, and then he used to keep it on his head. Hayagriva Swami, Bhagavan Hayagriva, he used to come in the horse form, and he used to keep his legs over here, and he used to eat out of that bowl. Whatever was left out is the prasada that Acharya used to consume, Vadirajacharya. Once some people, some miscreants, what they did, they felt that all this is stories, it's not true. But they believed in Hari. They are also Hari Bhaktas only. Some people are there. No, Bhaktas would not be wrong. They believe in him. That's all. So what they do to criticize, not criticize, what is the right word? Kindle ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. Criticize, not criticize. Prekshe, I think we can say. To laugh at him in a way, to make fun of his, yes, to make fun of his bhakti. Some miscreants, what they do, they mix poison with that kheer. And Acharya, without knowing it, he does the same thing. But usually, what used to happen is Bhagavan Hayagriva used to leave some of the the Naivedya as prasada, So, and Acharya used to consume that, but this time he doesn't leave anything. He eats up everything, which surprises the Acharya. And what happens is he doesn't eat anything that day. The next morning, he wakes up and then he goes to do puja. He's seeing that the murti of Hari is completely blue. Why is it blue? It's because it's been poisoned. When he gets to know this, he didn't know anything. He had nothing to do with it. Some people wanted to make fun of him, but it fills him with so much, he's filled with bhakti that it fills him with so much of grief that because of him, that his Aradhya was poisoned. And what he does, he brings Chandan and he does that lap with all the medicines and he starts applying it to the murti. That murti, when he applies it, he fills him with so much of grief and sorrow that he's actually feeling that, see, ultimately he's worshipping the creator. So the creator is not going to feel any of these things. But he is feeling that the Lord is suffering. That is the level of bhakti that is required for that kind of change, that kind of for the sakshatkara of Hari or Parabrahman to happen. That is the level of bhakti that is required. The words do not define the amount or the intensity of all the nature of bhakti, but it is extreme. So here Yama is saying, I can understand that you are busy. I can understand that you had some other problem. Okay. But nonetheless, all you had to do is with that amount of bhakti, you just had to worship him. Once you do it in your life, that is enough. You couldn't even do that. So, Yamokti, all three are Yamoktis only, which is saying Dharma actually, why they call him Dharmaraja. So he knows what is the right way to balance karma and phala. And he himself is saying that why didn't you worship Keshavaha, who can remove all your kleshas? So this is the most important thing. Then in the next upcoming, they talk about the Dravyanam apyabhavetu, Dravyanam api abhavetu, Dravya Puja. Dravya Puja is considered a very important part of it because we've already seen the importance of Tulsi. All those are Dravyas only. But Dravya Puja is not entirely the intention of it. It is important, but just the Dravya Puja without the bhakti and the discipline that is required to do it is extremely bad. That is, it means there has to be shaucha. There has to be utmost sincerity in it. And when do we get it? It should not be like, for example, Tulsi is required for Vishnu's worship. So you cannot go and pluck Tulsi anytime you want. There is a time for that as well. And there are many things. I mean, it's scientific. We are told not to break the Tulsi buds with our fingers. It should be with a scissor only, or it should be with some sharp object, because nails, if it touches the ends, then they start to dry off. So there has to be a certain procedure followed when it comes to Dravya Puja. So Dravya Puja comes up, it is not that it is not important, it is important, but it comes with its own set of instructions. Following it is difficult. Then what is the Vikalpa? Then the Vikalpa is water. Dravyanam api abhavetu salilena api pujitaha. Salilena api pujitaha. Then what happens? you're finding it difficult to follow the Dravya Puja. Like, for example, when we have to do Ganesh Chaturthi, we have to bring about that 16 Gije Vastra, what do you call that? The Vastra has to come with 16 layers. And then we have to bring some different kinds of flowers, 5 different types of patras, etc., etc. All those things has to be brought in. Many people are not able to do that. Many people don't are not able to do that. So the best substitute for Dravya Puja is water. Sometimes what happens, we don't get 5 different kinds of patras. So what we do, we take only patras, and every time the Pandit is saying the same thing, we are putting the same patras. Instead, rather than that, the best way is to take water. And in that water, we just keep dropping one drop of water on the murti, or if it is a clay, this thing, then we can put it into a smaller murti, or we can just show it to him and then put it into the Arghya Patra. So that is the importance of water. And why we need to understand is, we usually ignore water, but it is only water that can be converted to tirtha. Phala cannot be converted to tirtha. That is, pushpa cannot be converted to tirtha. It is only water that can be that can get abhimantrana. So it can transform. It can be re-energized. That is the importance of water. So using water as a substitute, even when we are doing our nitya karmas, let's say for example Sandhya Vandanam, the most that we do is we take water and then we wash our hands. Before we start doing achamana, we wash our hands. And with that coat of water, when we do our pranayama, we are able to hold, control what our sensibilities are. So water should be used extensively when we are doing these kind of kriyas. Here, however, the importance is that water is available everywhere. Again, we have to make sure that the water is pure. Water is pure as in it should not have human saliva. That means it should not be mixed with my saliva or anything like that. So pure means from the source we are taking. Mostly the purest form of water is said to be underground water, because fresh water we are not considering that. So if it is from a well, it is considered very pure for the purpose of puja. But nonetheless, water is said to be the greatest purifier. It is actually water. Fire is said to be the greatest purifier, and water is said to be the greatest uh, washer of sin. So we can get rid of all our misconceptions, any kind of alterations that we want to do. We can use water, and that is the importance of water. Salilena api. Why? Even with water, you can do. Why have they given a? They have not actually given a lower sthana for water. They're saying it is widely available rather than dravyas. That's all. They have not demoted water as, it is something lower, of a lower status than dravyas. It is just the upalabdhi of water is much higher than the dravyas, but the availability of dravyas is much scarce than water. Therefore, they have given salilena api pujitaha. Do pujanam karotu. Puja karotu. So that is the importance of water. Then there is a reference for this. So that is with respect to Vishnu Dharmottara. This is one text. In that it says Pushpalabhe api, alabhe, not available. Pushpalabhe api dayani patrani api janardane, to Janardana. We can do even when there is no pushpa, where there is no patras, also for the puja of Janardane. He will show us his daya. Patrat patrat shrabhe jalam dadat tena punyam upashrite. So even when the pushpa is not there, even when patra is not there, so patra labhe, so chalena, do your puja. He will grant you his daya, karuna. So patram pushpam phalam toyam bhaktya deyam janardane tena lokanam lokanam mavapnoti bhaktirevatra karanam. So this patram pushpam, we have seen the reference to that in Bhagavad Gita as well. So patram pushpam phalam toyam bhaktya devan janardane tena lokanam avapnoti bhaktirevatra karanam. So here they have mentioned, see, patram pushpam phalam toyam is not doing puja with that is not the reason why you will get something from Janardana. You are getting tena lokam na apnoti. You will not get that anything from by doing puja with patram pushpam phalam toyam. Bhaktireva atra karanam. Atra, whatever you are getting from Janardana, you are getting it because of your bhakti. That is the importance of bhakti. That is the mention in Vishnu Dharmottara. And then in the next one, Narasimho Hrishikeshaha Pundarika Nibhekshanaha Smaranan Muktido Nrunam Tatvaya Kinna Pujitaha. Again, Kinna Pujitaha. Why didn't you worship him? That is the underlined statement over here. But here, Narasimha Rishikeshaha. So, who is this Narasimha? Archanasya Naraka Pariharatve Kemutyena Aha Narasimha iti. So here Smarananam Narasimhetyadina Namna Smaranan Narasimhasya Shakro Mukto Brihad Dadhat इत्युक्ते है किमर्थम ना पूजितः इति यमेन परिभाषित इत्यन्वयः. So here, who is this Narasimha? Naraka Pariharakatve. He can grant us that, not grant us, yes, he can get us away from Naraka. Naraka Pariharatva. He can give us that Naraka Pariharatva. He is Narasimha. Who is Narasimha? Narasimha is the form of Lord who can protect us from Naraka. So, knowing this, why didn't you do his puja? That is the question that Dharma is asking. Again, what we need to understand here, when we see in the previous one, Lord he is giving his own sthana. Swakam sthanam sattva kinna pujitaha. Here, he will give you his own sthana if you do it with bhakti. The example is that of Krishna and Sudama, where Sudama, a poor childhood friend of Krishna, comes to see him at Dwarka, and he doesn't have anything to give him as bait or present to him. So he takes poha, very popular, beaten rice, puffed up rice, which is a favorite, and which is inferior good as compared to rice or kshira. And it is not Krishna's favorite, as we know from his tales. His favorite is Navanita. So he doesn't have anything because those are all extremely costly. So he takes this, and Krishna, seeing this, you're hiding my gift from me, and he snatches it from his hand and he starts eating it. as if it's his favorite thing. And Sudama is like, I couldn't bring you your favorite food. And he says, from now onwards, this is my favorite. That is the reason in South India, there is a custom that we never throw away poha, or we never, we shouldn't waste poha. So that is the treatment that is given to poha. And while he is eating that poha, as soon as Krishna takes one bite of poha, he transfers half of everything he has. Second one, all his wealth goes away. Third one, he's about to eat it, then Rukmini stops him. She says, you have already given all your manifested wealth. If you eat one more, then your Shri, all the prosperity goes away, which means I should also go to his house then. So Krishna or Hari will grant you his own place if you give him bhakti. That is the way to attract him, nothing else. And that bhakti over here is showing through, it doesn't matter what the dravya is. Even with water, if you do it, he'll be happy. And Dharma is saying, see, when somebody is so easy to please, when somebody is, he can grant you, he can take you from, he can take away all your sins, he can, what else? He can save you from Naraka. When he is able to do all these things, why can't you just do his puja? Just do his smarane, no? So smaranan mukti do nranam. He'll give you he'll grant you mukti only if you do his smarana. And if you're not even able to do that, then you belong in Narka. This is the underlying statement over there. Some subtext saying that. So like I said, there can be some parihasya attached with it, because coming from Yama, it can be. Because he is always serious and we always see him as like that, and he is somebody who has a perfect assessment of our karma and phalas. And that person is saying this means it can be taken as a parihasya that why can't you can't even do this, that sense. So this is the Bhashya for the 17th to 19th shlokas. स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः प्रतिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महीमहीषा गो ब्राह्मणेभ्यो शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु कायेन वाचा मनसीन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि।